Most people go through their entire lives convinced they are awake. That is the first mistake, and the most fatal one. Think about the last time you changed your mind about something truly important. Not a small preference. Not a brand of coffee or a political opinion swapped for social comfort. Something fundamental. Something about who you are. When was the last time you looked at yourself with complete honesty and did not flinch? If you are struggling to answer that, then what Plato understood over 2,000 years ago may be the most dangerous idea you have ever encountered. Because he was not talking about philosophy when he described people chained inside a cave, watching shadows on a wall, and calling them reality. He was talking about you, right now, living exactly that life. Here is what no one tells you about the cave. The prisoners are not stupid. They are not weak. They are not broken. They have become experts, masters of the shadows. They can predict when the next shadow will appear, name it, debate it, argue its meaning with great passion and authority. They have built entire identities around a reality that was never real to begin with. And the truly disturbing part? They are proud of it. That is not ignorance. That is something far more dangerous. That is the comfort of a carefully constructed illusion. And comfort, once established, will defend itself with everything it has. You were born into a world that was already in motion. Values were handed to you before you could question them. Desires were installed before you knew what desire was. Fears were cultivated in you long before anyone explained why. By the time you were old enough to think for yourself, the cage had already been built. And here is the cruelest detail. You decorated it yourself. You called it home. Plato believed that most people do not seek truth. They seek confirmation. They seek the feeling of being right rather than the terrifying freedom of actually seeing clearly. Watch how people react when their beliefs are challenged. Not with curiosity, with aggression, with dismissal, with a cold withdrawal that says, without words, do not go near that. Because somewhere beneath the surface, most people already sense it. That something is not quite right. That the life they are living is slightly off. Like a painting hung crooked on a wall. You can look at it for years, and something inside you whispers, something is wrong, but you never reach up to fix it, because fixing it would mean admitting it was wrong. And admitting it was wrong means everything built around it must be questioned. That is the real price of truth. And it is why most people never pay it. Here is where it gets more personal. Think about the people in your life who appear the most certain, the loudest voices, the ones who have an opinion about everything and a doubt about nothing. Plato watched those people carefully. He noticed something. Their certainty was not the product of deep thinking. It was the product of deep fear. When you have never truly examined your own mind, certainty becomes armor. It protects you from the examination you cannot afford to face. But there is another kind of person. Quieter, more still. The kind who sits with a question rather than racing to answer it. Who can hold contradiction without collapsing under its weight. Who has looked at the uncomfortable parts of themselves without looking away. These people are rare, and they are almost always misunderstood. Plato called this the philosophical soul. Not philosophical in the academic sense. Philosophical in the deepest human sense. Someone who has had the courage to turn around in the cave, to look away from the shadows, to begin, with trembling hands, the climb toward the light. And here's what that climb actually looks like. It does not look like enlightenment. It does not look like peace. It looks like confusion. It looks like grief. It looks like the unsettling moment when you realize that a belief you held for 20 years was never truly yours. That the person you thought you were was assembled from other people's expectations, other people's fears, other people's dreams. That beneath all of that borrowed identity, you are not entirely sure who is actually there. That moment is not failure. That moment is the beginning. Most people retreat at exactly that point. They feel the ground shift beneath them and they run back to the familiar, back to the comfortable opinions, the safe routines, the people who will not ask hard questions, back to the shadows, and they never leave again. But here is the truth that Plato understood and that the world will not tell you directly. comfort is not the same as peace. They feel identical from the inside, but they produce entirely different lives. Comfort is the absence of challenge. Peace is the presence of truth. One keeps you still, the other sets you free. The prisoner who escapes the cave does not come back with a trophy. He comes back with a warning. He comes back trying to describe light to people who have never seen anything but shadow, and they do not thank him. They mock him. They accuse him of confusion. In some versions of the story, they want to kill him. Because there is nothing more threatening to a comfortable illusion than someone who has seen past it and returned to say so. Sound familiar? Think about the people in your life who started changing, who started questioning what they were told, who stopped performing contentment and started pursuing something real. Did the people around them celebrate that? Or did they call it arrogance? Did they call it a phase? Did they withdraw their warmth and wait quietly for the person to come back to normal? The cave protects itself, not through bars and chains, through belonging, through the threat of rejection, through the cold shoulder of the tribe. That is the most sophisticated prison ever built, because you will keep yourself inside it willingly. You will police your own mind. You will silence your own questions, all to avoid the unbearable loneliness of being the only one in the room who sees something different. But here's what they do not tell you about that loneliness. It is temporary. The clarity is permanent. The moment you stop needing everyone around you to confirm your reality, something shifts, not into arrogance, into a strange, quiet confidence. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that can sit in a room full of noise and remain completely still inside. The kind that chooses its words carefully, not because it is afraid, but because it understands that most words are simply noise dressed as meaning. Plato believed that the highest form of human life was not pleasure. It was not power. It was not social approval. It was the examined life. The life where you are the observer of your own mind as much as its resident. Where you catch yourself mid-assumption and ask, wait, is this actually true? Where you are more interested in what is real than what is comfortable. And this is where it becomes urgent, because you are living in an era that has industrialized the cave. Every platform, every algorithm, every product is designed to feed you a version of reality that feels customized to you, that confirms what you already believe, that keeps you comfortable and reactive and certain. The shadows have never been more sophisticated. The chains have never been more invisible. And the noise has never been louder. So the question Plato was really asking, the question that sits underneath all his philosophy like a slow-burning fire, is this. What are you willing to give up to see clearly? Not what you want to gain, what you are willing to lose. The approval, the certainty, the comfortable story you tell about who you are and why your life looks the way it does. The convenient explanations for your failures, the borrowed beliefs you have never once interrogated. Because the truth is not waiting at the end of a book or a video. It is waiting in the silence you avoid, in the question you keep almost asking and then stopping, in the discomfort you feel when someone describes a version of reality that is slightly more honest than the one you prefer. Most people will watch something like this and nod. They will feel the stirring of something real, and then they will go back to exactly what they were doing, because insight without courage is just entertainment. And Plato knew that too. The examined life is not a philosophy, it is a daily practice, a discipline, a willingness to sit in your own uncertainty and not run from it. To question not just the world but the eyes you are using to see it. The cave is real. The chains are real. And the most radical act you can commit, in any era, in any life, is to turn around and begin the climb. Not for anyone else, not for anyone else, not for applause, not because someone told you to, but because somewhere beneath all the noise, beneath all the borrowed certainty, beneath all the shadows you have been watching and calling truth, there is something in you that already knows. It is always known. The question is whether you will finally listen to it.